questions from people that got in their questions via Instagram this week. So you always want to make sure you follow my stories as we prepare each week for Sunday Soul and give you a little dose of goodness to start your week. And this is from Tara, Baltimore. And the question is, in your dreamiest of big dreams, what are you doing in your career?
It sounds really weird to say this, and I'm not pandering. I'm not making it up at all. What I'm about to start this year is literally, that's everything I've wanted, is to be with a major league team. And I've struggled for a long time because it was sidelines or play-by-play.
Mm-hmm.
And people have asked, well, if you're at that crossroads, you have to choose, what are you going to do? And I've never had an answer.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I love going to the ballpark. Like, it's that simple. I don't care what I get to do. And so it's such a movement. And that's how I know this is my place, is because now I don't have to choose. They have enough faith and confidence in me that they're going to throw me into everything. I don't have to give up everything. And I can know the game and know this Orioles team inside out and backwards. And I'm just really, really excited to see how I grow into that and how we get the ball rolling. It is terrifying, but I'm excited.
All right, another one. Becky L. Winward asked, and I'm going to blend this with a question that I have for you that has to do with I'm changing the narrative. If you're watching this and you've stumbled upon this because you're a friend of Melanie's, please go check out I'mChangingTheNarrative.org, and you'll get an idea of the principles and the foundation that we have surrounding I'm Changing the Narrative. But it's really soul training is what we say. I'm about your soul. You've got a coach that's training your body. You've got teachers that are training your mind. I'm about your soul. And we talk about purpose, passion, platform, self-care, mental health, being a king or a queen every day of your life, good love for yourself and for others. And so Becky says, how do you wind down / refresh yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed from work? And I would add to that, Melanie, the thing that I would add to that is just to say, what do you do for your soul? What do you do when you know you are overwhelmed from work, you are overwhelmed from life, right? So to combine this awesome question with a principle that we teach and I'm Changing the Narrative, what do you do for your soul?
Okay, we'll go big picture and little picture with this. And it is something that I struggle with a lot in being a workaholic, being a perfectionist, especially with the responsibilities that are about to start. Literally this coming week, I take away a lot from me to give to that. And I'm very fortunate that I have a good inner circle that reminds me, they're like, hey, so you're going to go to bed tonight. You're going to stop studying. Like, this is your hard cutoff day. Because I do, I burn out and I push myself way too hard sometimes. And then you'll get into the event and you're like, oh, like I didn't need to do that much.
I know.
So on that perfect big picture level, it's making sure that I'm in the gym, 3, 4, 5 days a week. It's usually for an hour and a half, 2 hours, just depending on what I want to do. Making sure I'm paying attention to what I'm eating and that I'm getting enough water is huge, because once I learned that it's not how much you caffeinate, but it's caffeination's good, but you have to like be way up on hydration. Otherwise you'll still feel tired.
Yep.
I watch my water intake like a hawk.
Okay.
And that's really all I drink are water and coffee. So that's simple. But diving into books and readings, I have 3 or 4 devotionals. I read 1 page from each every single night. And so that takes, 10 minutes. And just trying to stay on top of that the best I can. I have a book from Bob Goff and I'll read a chapter of that every night, or I'll reread some of his other books just because they have that direct ability to absorb. Where other books, you kind of have to ponder, and what did I get from this? Like, the message immediately, which is just a really good reminder in life. And then on the flip, even when I'm busy and I don't get to read the books and I don't get to dive into other things, I keep a journal with me. I've done it for 3 years now. And the whole goal is just writing down one good thing that happened that day. And it could even be like, it stopped raining and it was 70 degrees outside.
Yeah.
But then you look back and you just have this whole journal of, all the good stuff, and not to, oh, it's rose-colored glasses and you've never had a bad day, but why focus on that stuff? It's not going to matter 5 years from now. So take the good stuff that you can get out of it and go from there. And I will say the smaller picture, if I'm super stressed and I'm pushing and I'm at my limit, I have friends I know I can lean on and literally just say, I'm spent, or I need you right now. And they know what that means. And whether it's sending me like a cute picture of puppies, or, a verse that means a lot to me, or just an encouraging quote. And they know that they're not expecting anything back from me at that moment. That means that I'm up to here with work. I don't have time to even look at my phone, but seeing those little notes keeps me going. I'll play comedy on my Pandora on my phone as I'm falling asleep at night, because you can't, and so what I love is it has a sleep timer. So I'll put it on 30 minutes. And even if I'm like completely stressed out, you'll hear something and it just makes you laugh. If it's funny, you can't control it. It's going to make you laugh. So by the time I'm finally falling asleep, my body is physically more relaxed because I'm laughing, I'm in a good mood, and I'm loose. I've done that for 6 or 7 years now. And it's something that I'll probably never stop doing, just because, it could be the worst situation. But the minute like that one joke finally gets you, it's such a huge help.
I may need to try this versus waves. Like I seriously may need to try this. And on the Bob Goff note, his first book, Love Does, he's got a chapter in there where he talks about the old Jeep, how he had this old Jeep and he loved.
Oh, I love that chapter.
Yes. And how what I can remember, the Jeep would leak oil. And he said his goal at the end of it was to leak Jesus like that old Jeep leaked oil. And I think that's the goal at the end of the day is to leak Jesus. And what we teach in I'm Changing the Narrative is, if you didn't put your best foot forward, no matter what you believe, if you didn't put your best foot forward, if you didn't make yourself proud, if you didn't make your higher self, whatever your higher power you believe, proud, for us, it's Jesus, because we're Christians. But, and we know there's a lot of different people that have watched this broadcast. But if you didn't make yourself proud, or whoever that is, go back and fix it. Go back and be accountable. Make it right. Even if it's from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's never too late to do the right thing. But I love that. I love Bob Goff. He's such a happy individual. I have another question for you. We do this, and I came up with this idea of doing this on Sunday to really set your mind on the week ahead. Okay. And if I'm thinking about my week ahead right now, and what I've been marinating on for the past 2 weeks, is really surrender. As a type A, I love to make it happen. I want to make it happen. This is what I want to do. And I'm learning more and more to be still and know that I'm God. Just be still. He's got it. He's walking with us. So I'm curious, is there some wisdom that you'd like to leave with our viewers for the week ahead, so we can get intentional with this episode of Sunday Soul?
But I love that you just said intentional, because my first word was going to be have a purpose and be purposeful in what you do. We can't all just abandon ship right away and do what it is we ultimately want to do. Some people have that real job and they have financial things that they have to take care of. So as much as it'd be great to say, I have a banker right now, but I want to do this instead, you can't just quit the job and go do that. But you can take the small steps to start moving towards what does call you, and ultimately what makes you happy and makes you light up. And whether that's starting a hobby, or picking up reading materials that are around it, or finding a new show that ties back in and relates to that, I think there are small ways to start incrementally pouring in to what ultimately calls to you, even if that is something that does stay as a hobby and not necessarily as a career path. I mean, I know there are certain things that it's not profitable, but that makes people so happy to be a part of and to have that balance in their life. And with that, you also have to watch your time. And it's like we said earlier, learning to say no is so hard sometimes. And not saying no to opportunities, but understanding when there's certain things that you just don't need to be taking on. And whether that's, a social commitment or a relationship that's just not going to serve an overall beneficial purpose, understanding that it's okay to protect yourself and protect what you're out there to do and to look for. And then taking it from that point forward and going, these are the people in my life. This is the purpose in my life. This is what I want to do. And just live with love. the thing that's always set me back and just really made me in awe is when I've heard people say, I've been really close to not existing anymore, and a stranger smiled at me at the airport. And that one extra day that just made them feel okay. There was no conversation, there was nothing. It was just a smile for no reason. And then they eventually got to the help they needed and got to the place that they needed. So understanding to live outwardly with that. And I've caught myself sometimes, there's someone smacking their gum on like the tram, or, someone who's talking too loud and their cell phone's on speakerphone and they're out in public. You just kind of want to be like, why do you not know better? But you don't know their story. And you don't know my story. I'll never fully know your story. And that's the thing, like your best friend, your brother, your sister, you're still never going to know their story in full because you're not them. And once we kind of process that and understand that even the slightest negative comment or look or remark or anything, like you don't know how that tips somebody.
Yes.
And not to exhaust yourself. There's no reason to be over the top with everybody, but all it takes is just not being negative.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And it's so much easier to live like that than to go around scowling and finding a reason to be miserable. So just be purposeful in your plan, in your drive, who you have in your life, how you spend your time, and live outward in love.
One last thought I'm going to let you leave us with. Roseanne Sapia, a friend of both of ours, she had some great comments talking about how inspirational you have been to her, pouring into her. And one of the things she wanted you to speak on for everybody that's listening to this, and I just love the power of technology. I love that through technology, that this will land to the right people, the people that need it the most, that are feeling low, that need to hear what we have to say. And I love that. But she talks about your path, and how do you know your path is your path? Because I get that question a lot from people that are struggling and trying to find their way. And I think you made a really great distinction, because we talk about your purpose and what you're passionate about, and I'm changing the narrative. Sometimes it might be macrame. It might be it might be knitting. It might be knitting for women that have breast cancer and they have inserts for their bras, that have had mastectomies. You don't know. It may be something that makes you money. It may not. But she wants to know, as we close out here on Sunday Soul, my first ever guest, Melanie Newman, and I'll put all of her information for you to follow her, and you'll be able to see her in the big leagues. So excited for her. Talk to me about your path. How do you know your path is your path?
For a long time, I felt really guilty that my path was broadcasting. And I'll explain it this way. Growing up as a kid, and no one ever believes this now, I was horribly shy. I did not speak in public. I did not leave my mother's side. I didn't go outside. Like, I had a couple friends, but they were all the teachers' kids because my mom was the principal. That was it. That was my little bubble. Done. I wanted to be a vet. And then we had to dissect a shark, and I couldn't be a vet. And then I wanted to be a teacher like my mom, and she said, no, you're not going to do that. So I started really falling in love with writing and journalism in high school. And again, still very much introverted and shy, but that was, you don't have to be out there to be a writer, which now I know you probably do a little bit. But when I started competing in pageants and really developing who I was, like, I did it just because I'd never done it. I watched Miss Congeniality and was like, oh, okay. And had no idea. Like, we will burn the photos from the first one I ever did. But what I always tell people is I knew in that moment when I got thrown on stage in a swimsuit, in high heels, in front of 2,000 people, in front of cameras, in front of videographers, you crack open the shell wide. There's no slowly develop. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, I was 15, and that's where I started getting a personality, being more confident in myself, being unafraid to make new friends and to be in unknown places, which that's all fed into the fact that I'm in broadcasting. And add to that, as I got more serious, you develop speech coaches and all these other things. So when I went to Troy University, they have a large enough program to where the majors are split between print and journalism. It's not just one mass field. And the advisor, when I declared print journalism, said, no, I really think you need to go into broadcasting. And I was like, what? But I'm a yes man. And so I said, you know what? Sure, let's do it. And I thought maybe I'll be a host and I'll anchor studio shows and I'll do this. And then I got the opportunity from a boss to start doing sideline. I thought, I'm never going to do that. But my dad was like, you're being given a chance, and you're being given a chance to create change. So you're missing. Exactly.
Chances.
I fell in love with it, obviously, and I've stuck to it ever since then. But it was really in that moment, because this is 2010, 2011, where I was like, this is it. And from then on, that's all it's ever been. There's no backup plan. There's no alternate. I'm literally only created on this earth to do this. And why I say I used to feel guilty about that is because people start asking you, oh, well, when you were growing up, what broadcasters did you emulate? Who did you look up to? And every other peer and mentor that I know, they all talk about being kids and how these broadcasters deeply impacted them. And I remember ones that stuck out. I remember ones that my dad would talk about him feeling connected to and why they were better than other broadcasters, but I never watched them and thought this is what I wanted to do. And so that made me feel like I maybe don't deserve to be here because all these other people have wanted to do this since they were little. And I didn't realize this is what I wanted to do until I was 19.
That's okay.
Yeah. And it finally came to that point of realization, honestly, within the last year, that you come to your path when you come to your path. And some people don't even find that until 40, 60, 70 years old. But again, as much as we want to control our timeline, we don't get to. So I'm just grateful that I found it when I did, because once it clicked, there was no turning around. And you and I have even talked about this. I mean, a year and a week ago now, I was sitting there without a job. I was unemployed. And it was the first time I had that come to terms with my dad. I've heard it from other people, but I'd never heard it from him. And he said, look, you really might need to start thinking about a career change. And I get it. I'm unemployed. Spring training has already started. I've never made even above poverty level in my career. I am 28 years old and I'm still at poverty level or lower. Yes. And that's what's great is like, everybody thinks it's so glamorous. So I'm like, honey, I'm eating SpaghettiOs. Like, I can't pay to do things. I'm checking my credit card to see if I can charge gas to it for my car. So in that moment of, I think you might need to consider, and within 24 hours of me finding out I didn't have a job, one opened up. It was perfectly fit for me. We made history again, and everything took off from there. And my family and I, we talk about now, and the friends that I've had that we've pulled each other through when they've wanted to quit, I've told them to keep going and vice versa. And we look back on that day a lot and just say, it's crazy that everybody was telling you it was time to hang it up, time to find something else, time to be an adult. And you knew that's it. I mean, it's a soul thing. Like, you can't change what you were supposed to do. And for people who are struggling with that, I want to remind them to have grace towards themselves.
Yes. So good.
We have a videographer, and I love him and I love his work, but we even got to have a little heart to heart a couple weeks ago. And he said, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do right now. The contract he had for his job had ended. So he went back home just to kind of reset and see his family. And I just said, look, a lot of people are going to be asking you, when's your next job or when you want to do this? It's okay to stop and to just kind of live life for a little bit and don't think about it. And then slowly let whatever your next purpose or your next path is come to you. Don't force it, or don't be like, why is nothing speaking to me right now? Why is nothing exciting me? Be okay to be in yourself and to kind of just sit for a minute and really internalize everything that's going on and find that new flame.
You are like Yoda. Like, I swear. You're so wise. You're so wise. And it's funny. It's funny because I had that very same conversation with my dad. And I remember where I was. I remember I was driving on the interstate. I was getting onto 459 in Birmingham. And he was a military man his whole life, Melanie. And then, yep. And then he balanced the budgets for Fort Rucker. And I remember him saying, Rachel, you just sent me money. And he was like, Rachel, baby girl, you know, I just want you to start thinking about a plan B. And I remember like it came out and it was like, I was like, there is no plan B, you know?
Yes.
You know, like it was guttural and crying and passionate all at the same time. And whoever was driving next to me in that moment was probably like, she's having a hard time right now. But my dad never asked again, bless him, until the day that he passed away. And I know he's proud of me now because, you know, what I did for all those years gave me the runway to get into the meeting rooms. And my friend Gina Leahy even reminds me, she's like, you know, you may have gotten in the meeting rooms because of what you did, but they're asking you back now because of who you are and your message. And so yeah, man, I've had that same, Melanie, that same conversation with my dad, sweet daddies that care about you, and want the best for you. But I think that's such wise advice. So many people, I think, need to find it now. If I don't know now, like the videographer, I don't know. It will come to you.
Yeah.
It will come to you.
Yeah.
It will become very clear.
Exactly. And that's something I think too is societal, and especially the way that social media is portrayed sometimes. If everybody knows exactly what they want to do, they're making six figures, they're living where they want to live, they have the love of their life, you know, boom, boom, everything's in order. And that's why I've always tried to focus my social media to be honest. Be like, I have really struggled for the last 3 weeks. I have finally figured it out. Like, I'm out of my slump. I'm here, but it's okay to not feel okay. And I even posted a couple of days ago and said, you know what, look, I'm going to tell you right now, just because I'm on TV doesn't mean that I wake up every day thrilled about my appearance. Like, my appearance is something I've physically struggled with a long part of my life. And what honestly hit me the most about that was the number of people who reached out and said, you have no idea what it means to see you doing what you do, to be honest, and to make me feel okay about myself. Mm-hmm. And it was a full spectrum, between girls who had struggled with eating disorders to women who were struggling with post-baby weight and, you know, everything in between. And that's just it. Like, we should be using social media to be level with each other, because this whole iceberg effect of, you're going to see my 5% highlight reel and all the nasty and unsure and even just unfiltered, it doesn't even have to be negative, is gonna be hidden back here, because my life's perfect and I don't have time for it. I don't have time to make other people feel less for looking at my social media, because the day that happens, it needs to go away. But I think that's a huge platform for us to be able to use in the positive.
You are amazing. If I couldn't love you anymore, you just stole my heart with that comment. What a way, I think, a topic to say goodbye on, and that, but you hit the nail on the head. It's one we needed to touch on. And we in social media, I say social media, and I'm changing the narrative. We use 2 hashtags: destroy perfect. Destroy is in all capital letters, perfect is in little. And the other one is take off the mask. And you have no idea what you're doing for people. You do actually, but maybe not the magnitude of it. What you're doing for people when you talk about your realness. I've had people say to me, I had a person walk up to a friend of mine, and we were out and down in Destin, we were having dinner, and the stranger walks up, Melanie, and says, out of nowhere, says, I used to follow you on social media, but you cry a lot, so I stopped following you. And I was like, what? Like, and everything in me, my flesh wanted to be sassy and spicy because I'm Latina. But then I saw the moment, the growth moment. And I said, sit down. I said, do you know why I cry a lot? Do you know why I'm real on social media? And this is exactly what you just talked about. I said, I just lost my mom. And I've been through depression so dark and so deep. I thought about one night taking my own life. I have been medically not well, financially not well. I've been through heartbreak. I've lost my best friend. She died in my arms. And I cry because I want people to see all sides of me. I want people to see all of it and know they're not alone. And that person, Melanie, ended up sitting with us and becoming a friend. And now I just, an acquaintance. And now like, his stuff on social media and say, say nice things. And when I could have given him the world, right? I could have given him what he deserved in that moment, to come up and be so abrupt and really so rude. But I give him that. And I really applaud you for being somebody who shows their vulnerability, their insecurities, their realness, the rest of the iceberg, because every time we do that, we chip away at the iceberg and the stigma of mental health and self-care, and this idea that, oh my gosh, my life is not as perfect as Melanie's. But Melanie is a queen, and so she's out there teaching people that this is all of me, and all of me is beautiful.
Thank you. That's everything to me. And that's, again, farthest from perfect compared to what a lot of people think. And we just have to keep living our truth and being out there and putting forth love. I mean, that's all it comes down to.
Y'all, she is Melanie Newman. You're going to see her in the big leagues this year. And she has been so gracious to spend her time with me, and getting ready after this. She's got a 5:00 flight in the morning. And so I am so grateful for you, Melanie Newman, and you'll have a lot of new followers after this. Thanks so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful, intentional week, as Melanie talked about, a week of surrender, a week of not pressing yourself and giving yourself grace. That's what I took from Melanie. And being able to show all of you the real you. For Melanie Newman, I'm Rachel Baribeau. This has been Sunday Soul. Have a fantastic week.